Hey everybody, Ryan Medora here, and we're talking about Cissy Strut, great soul R&B meters New Orleans bass line with one of my favorites, George Porter Jr. on bass. He is a bass player to know. He's in my book. My book is right there. It's also on Amazon. It's also on my website. You can totally get it. But in this book, I talk about some of the bass players that you should know if you play this instrument, those who have really influenced the history of the instrument, a lot of the music that we listen to today, and George Porter Jr. is one of them. And perhaps one of the most popular songs that he's played on is Cissy Strut by the Meters. So that's what today's lesson is going to be all about. So if you want to get more info, head over to my website, ryanmedora.com. Check out my Patreon page or my TrueFire channel for tab, notation, things like that. But in the meantime, we're going to get into learning how to play this bass part. So first things first, let's talk about where we are from a tonal standpoint. We're going to be in C. Now, this song is interesting because it's almost this little bit of a mix between C minor and C major, where we have a couple of notes from both the minor scale and the major scale, particularly a minor third and a major sixth. Now, we'll go into this a little bit further, but the important thing to know is that major patterns and minor patterns are awesome. You should know them, and they can be mixed and matched, and that's what we're going to see in this bass line. So we're going to split it into two parts, the A section, which is kind of the ba-ba-doo-ba-ba. You can tell I'm a singer. And then the B section, which is the ba-ba-doo-ba-ba, that fun little part, you know. So first let's dive into this A section, and I'm going to start by playing it, then we'll dissect it, and then let loose on the next part B. So we're going to be in the key of C. Here's my C. I'm playing essentially, to begin, I'm actually just descending a minor seventh chord. Now, if you checked out some of my videos on learning and labeling things, we talked about like minor seventh chords in the A minor lesson, and we learned that an A minor, or in this case a C minor, arpeggio will be the root, the minor third, the fifth, the flat seventh, and the octave. So find those notes first. We're in the key of C minor-ish. We're playing a C, an E flat, a G, a B flat, and a C, or root, minor third, fifth, minor seventh, and the octave. To begin this bass part, we're actually just going to descend these notes. So we're going to start at the octave, play the flat seventh, the fifth, the minor third, and the root. That's why it's always good to play scales, arpeggios, both ascending and descending, because it really comes in handy so that when you go to play this bass line, you're like, oh, it's just a minor seventh chord. The C minor seventh chord played descending. How cool. One of the many reasons why bass players should know chords. It just helps with music. It helps you create cool parts. So the beginning part of this really is just this minor seven, the C minor seven arpeggio played descending. You can give it a little stank by kind of playing these notes pretty quickly, and then leaning into the E flat, the minor third. And then to finish up, we want to play our lower fifth, and basically play like the G, the A, which is our sixth scale degree, hammer on kind of to the C, and then play A and C again, or sixth and root. So we have our descending arpeggio, or if we want to talk notes, we have C, B flat, G, E flat, C, and then we play a lower G twice, an open A, a C, and an A, and C again. and it happens pretty quickly. So just give yourself a break if it's a little cumbersome when you start playing this, but it's really cool once you kind of get it flowing. And it's actually very useful to use the open strings here. It's kind of weird to kind of be playing this A fretted. Part of the reason why the bass line feels the way it does is because, yeah, we can take advantage of playing this open A. And also one of the reasons why I first started by saying we're kind of mixing major and minor here is because we are using like a minor 7th chord as we are descending, but then we also throw in the 6th, which is a scale degree from our major scale. So if you want to get into mode land, you can think a little bit and like, oh, maybe it's Dorian. But for now, just know that, yeah, we can kind of combine elements of major and minor if we so choose. And this is an example of how we do that. So now that we've got this A section, we have this little thing, which is kind of a cool little roll that happens, basically going, kind of outlining a G in a way, where we're playing like our lower G, this D, and the higher G. But I'm going to play it like D, higher G, D, lower G, and kind of give it a little roll action. If you're playing this, I highly recommend using your pinky and getting this little back and forth. That's a really good motion to try to get down. So the whole thing would be kind of like that. And that is our first section of the song. Now the B section is, I think, a little bit easier to play actually, because in this first part, the A section, we kind of do shift positions a little bit. We're kind of jumping down, and then we kind of scooch up a little bit. In the B section, we're really just maintaining this like box pattern between the 3rd and the 5th fret, where here's our C, and everything is going to be kind of between the 3rd and the 5th fret. And the scale degrees that we're using are the root, the 5th, the flat 7th, and the octave. This is a very common like blues bass kind of thing. You've probably heard something like that before. But to create the B section, we're really just going to be using those notes in a creative way. So we go from our A, and then here's our B section. Let's break it down. We play the octave first, the 5th, the octave again, the flat 7th, the octave, the flat 7th, and we hang there for a little bit, and then we play the octave, the 5th, the octave, the 7th, the 5th, and the 1. Whew, that's a lot. It's a little bit easier when we kind of break it down pattern-wise. Just the first couple of notes is the octave, the C, then the G, the octave, and then the B flat, and then C, B flat again. So it's like this. Just try to get that part. So I'm just vamping that very first part of this B section, and you'll hear me snap because I'm kind of accounting for space. This is a bass line where, the timing of it is super important, and the way you account for space is a big deal. Sometimes I like to think about, if I was watching or sitting right by the drummer listening to them play, I would hear them play the bop, bop. I would hear those couple of notes. But for me, I'm going to make sure that I take those rests into account, so that when I play the bass line, there you have it. I like to give myself that time marker. So we have the first part of the B section. We have our space. Then we have or octave, the 5th, the octave, the flat 7th, the 5th again, and the root. Or C, G, C, B flat, G, land on the C. So all together, this B section. Bop, bop. Bop, bop. Bop, bop. So as you can see, I'm definitely accounting for that space, that rest, and I am really just sticking within these few frets, outlining really just like a C chord using the root, the fifth, the flat seventh, and the octave. So there's a little bit of flexibility in terms of what the other people want to play and how much they want to lean into major or minor. But the cool thing is that we can use this box pattern and use the root, the fifth, the flat seventh, and the octave and make a lot of funky bass lines out of it. So all together, we have part A. And then part B. And those are the two sections. Those are the two riffs. There's also a fun little jammy jam that happens on the record, which I'm going to let you work out for now. But if you can play these two phrases, you're good to go for playing this song. So I hope you dug this. Please check out my Patreon page, my TrueFire channel, my website for more goodies, and get this under your fingers. Learn about George Porter Jr., listen to some Meters records. You're going to dig it. I hope. I do. Maybe you will too. It's fun. And get hip to some cool New Orleans style R&B funky bass lines. So happy practicing, everybody. Take care and keep it groovy.